You see, I'm interested in the country. I'm not interested in me or my career. All the other writers I know about, that I know anything about, at least the American ones, are only interested in themselves, in making it. I couldn't give a goddamn about making it.
Didn't stop you being very waspish, some would say bitchy, about your fellow writers. I mean, if you didn't care about your personal standing...
I hardly ever mention them. So, I only write about them occasionally as a critic, always to praise.
But, well, I mean, is it apocryphal that when Truman Capote passed away, you described it as a good career move?
Yes, I did say that.
Well,
it was.
That's the sort of comment I'm driving at. Didn't you once say that
no,
when a friend of yours receives praise, so a little bit of you dies? I mean,
well, I am funny from time to time.
And I suspected you'd tell me it was a joke, but well, isn't there a little bit of seriousness under that? A sort of insecurity, a defensiveness?
Oh, yes, I'm so insecure, you know. I'm jittery with insecurity. That number doesn't work. About Capote, he was the most illegitimate literary figure we ever produced. He was also a consummate liar. He never stopped lying. And I finally took him to court. I sued him for libel, and I won. And he has to print a huge apology to me in one of his very last books.
It's interesting talking about America because, of course, you spent a large part of your life, many of your most creative years, in Italy. And yet you say that wasn't an exile. You weren't in exile.
Of course I wasn't.
What were you doing in Italy? Why weren't
I was
you
writing books about America.
Wouldn't it be more natural to do it in America?
Your idea of nature and mine are in conflict.
What did it give you, that distance?
It gave me history. It gave me Aristotle. I'm actually quite good on Aristotle. If you want to do the whole program on it, we'll start with politics.
I suppose it allowed your critics, and you know you have many in the United States, to suggest that your view of America was out of touch with the country that now is.
No, it's not. I reminded you a little earlier, don't forget that I am popular. They read my books out there. And you can't pretend that I'm unpopular, or that William F. Buckley was a beloved figure. Well, he wasn't.
America in the world. You've written a lot about it. You have talked about an American empire, which I think you see in decline.
Yes.
Is it terminal decline?
Oh, I hope so, because Henry James, no fool when it came to politics. He ended up his life living over here as a Brit. But he said something very interesting. There's the time of the Spanish-American War, which we used the excuse to seize the Philippine Islands. And we used an excuse to become a great Pacific power. And one of his nephews wrote him and said, well, what do you think about what's going on now in the United States with the war against Spain? And he wrote a very ominous letter back to his nephew, and he said, where empire civilized the British, it will further barbarize us. I am a Jamesian.
To actually relate this to relatively current events, after 9/11, the Bush administration faced a challenge from
which they had invented.
Islamist extremism.
Yeah.
Entirely invented in your view.
There's no such thing.
No such thing at all.
No, you can't find it anywhere. Where does it live?
Although the Twin Towers came crashing down, and something.
Well, of course they did, and your underground went crashing up, or whatever it did, when somebody got at it with a bomb. This is a period of unrest.
But do you not believe, as indeed some people who are very sympathetic to you, and I would think admire you a great deal, like Christopher Hitchens, Martin Amis, they believe that the West, led by the United States, does have a duty to take a stand for freedom and democracy in the face of intolerance.
We had an
Islamofascism, they might call it.
We had an idiot president called Woodrow Wilson, who got us into World War I in 1917. Why did we go to war? He wanted to make the world safe for democracy. This is meaningless, meaningless, both politically, strategically, and morally.
Can there ever be a good war?
Well, you can't prove it by me.
The Second World War? A good war? A war worth
Well,
fighting?
I spent 3 years in
American
it.
lives for?
I spent 3 years in it. And for those who like wars, I suppose it was the only one we had for a while.
And what about Bill Clinton's reflection that he wishes he'd used American power to intervene in Rwanda in the early 1990s?
He's a politician. He'll say anything that might work. That's all.
But what I'm driving at is, do you never believe there can be a moral obligation on the United States to
No,
intervene?
I don't. And morality is the last thing our republic can ever think to do or talk about. We have been immoral from the very beginning. We have absolutely, were dealt a beautiful hand when we got you people out of North America, and we did very well for a time. And now we get worse and worse and worse.
Your grandfather, a senator, was an isolationist. It sounds,
Yes, he was, and so was I.
Was I, or am I?
Well, I prefer it to being an interventionist. England got into the habit, and it was a bad habit it was back around 1939, 1940, in trying to draw the United States into continental wars over here, which were no business of ours. Wisely, the isolationist card almost always won at election time. Roosevelt, very far-sighted man, and perhaps in the long run correct, I don't know. But he was all for getting us in. First of all, against Japan, which was running riot in Asia, and in Europe with Hitler. Because you don't like a dictator doesn't mean you go to war all the time.
Gore Vidal, we're almost out of time. I just wonder...
Yes, we are, in every sense.
And before time closes down on us, tell me, do you think you are swimming with the tide of American history? Or
If I were, I would reverse.
So you're a contrarian. Come what may, you're a contrarian.
No, I'm practical. I think the United States is going out of business, and I don't enjoy that. We are irrelevant.
And it's irresistible, this decline, is it?
Well, no, I can't do it alone, can I?
But you told me you're very popular. There
Well,
are
I
people
am, but
supporting
I'm not
you.
going to run for president.
We have to leave it there, on that thought.
Minatory note. Where's the ominous music, as Daryl Zanuck would say, that you promised me at the end of the program?
It's coming now. Gore Vidal, thanks very much for being on Hard Talk.